I didn't slam the door. I didn't cry. I didn't even look back. The hallway outside the suite was quiet, carpeted in that thick, expensive way that makes footsteps feel like secrets. I rolled my suitcase slowly past the spa, past the check-in desk where we'd first arrived, smiling three women who looked like family. My mother Diane had whispered it behind the cabana, away from the music, away from the stairs. "You're ruining this for your sister. Just go." And I did. I don't know if Brielle, my younger sister, was surprised when I left. I think she was halfway through another story about her friend Amber's yacht party. I think she wanted me gone. I don't think she thought I'd actually go, but I had to. I'd spent nearly $8,000 planning this trip. First-class flights using my saved miles, the beachfront suite, the dinner reservations and quiet walking tours. A full week in Miami to celebrate Mom's 62nd birthday. I had arranged everything. I had paid for almost everything, and now I was the only one walking away from it. Maybe that's what stung the most. When the taxi pulled up, the driver asked if I needed help with my bag. I shook my head. My voice didn't trust itself. Inside the car, I finally let myself breathe. This wasn't how it was supposed to go, not after everything I'd done. Not after all the years I stayed silent, stayed strong, stayed useful. But maybe walking away was the most honest thing I'd ever done. It's strange how early roles stick to you even when no one says them out loud. I've always been the capable one, not the pretty one that was always Brielle, not the fun one that was Mom, especially after a glass of white wine. I was the one who got the paper towels without being asked, who remembered the hotel key, who double-checked the gate number even when it wasn't my flight. After Dad died, things shifted fast. I was 12 and Brielle was barely 6. Mom Diane was suddenly a widow with 2 daughters and a mortgage and no college degree. She went back to school at night, worked full-time as a nurse during the day, and ran on black coffee and nerves. I learned early how not to be one more thing she had to manage. I made my own lunch. I got Brielle ready for school. I sat in the waiting room of Mom's second job doing homework under fluorescent lights while she finished her shift. Sometimes she'd look at me and say, "Thank God for you, Erin." I lived for those words. They weren't warm exactly, but they were something close to love. Brielle, meanwhile, got softness. Hugs. Excuses. She was sensitive. She got overwhelmed easily. Mom used to say she was like a little flower with thin skin. When she didn't want to go to school, she stayed home. When I didn't want to go, I went anyway. There's a memory that always comes back when I'm hurt, though I don't like it. It was my 10th birthday. Dad had been gone almost a year. Mom was working a double shift trying to afford new tires for the car. I understood. I didn't expect balloons or cake. But I did leave a note on the fridge the night before that said Erin's birthday, 10 years old, just in case she forgot. She did. That night she came home exhausted and asked if I could heat up some leftover chili for dinner. I did. We ate quietly. She didn't notice anything strange. After Brielle went to bed, I washed the dishes and then went into my room where I finally let the tears come. 2 months later, Brielle turned 4. There were balloons, a cake with her name spelled in purple icing, a little crown from the party store. Mom took pictures on a disposable Kodak and called her my sunshine girl. I didn't resent Brielle then. Not exactly. But a seed had been planted one I'd keep watering for decades. Now, at 31, I had become the one who handled things. The one who made sure life didn't unravel. And even when I left that hotel suite in Miami, even when Mom told me to go, I still left behind a folder of reservation confirmations labeled by day and time with notes and instructions. Because no matter how invisible I felt, I didn't know how to stop being useful. The idea for the trip came to me on a Tuesday, the kind of ordinary day that makes you realize how fragile people really are. Mom had just gotten out of the hospital. It wasn't a heart attack, thank God, just stress-related symptoms, the doctor said. But I had seen her in that thin gown wires taped to her chest, her lips pale. And I thought if something happens to her, this is the last version of us we'll ever be. So I planned something beautiful, not extravagant, not flashy, just careful, thoughtful, the way I knew how to love. A full week in Miami for her 62nd birthday. Warm sun, beachfront mornings, something she would never buy for herself. I started a savings folder in January. Every time I skipped takeout or delayed buying new shoes, the money went in. I booked the suite 6 months in advance to lock in a discount. I used my airline miles to upgrade our flights to first class. Mom had never flown anything but economy. I wanted her to feel seen, just once. I called restaurants and asked about low-sodium options. I printed out menus. I made notes about shade availability for Mom's sun-sensitive skin and Brielle's aversion to crowds. I created 2 versions of each itinerary, one for sun, one for rain. It was exhausting, but also quietly joyful. Because maybe for once I wouldn't have to explain myself. Maybe they would see what this was. Not a flex, not control, just love done the only way I knew how. When I told them about the trip, Brielle squealed. Finally, a real vacation. Mom's eyes got glassy. You didn't have to do this. I wanted to, I said, and I did, truly. I didn't expect anything in return, at least that's what I told myself. But a small hidden part of me hoped maybe this would be the moment, the one where they looked at me, not as the organizer, the bank account, the reliable one, but simply as Erin. The warning signs were quiet, like hairline cracks in a glass you don't realize is breaking until it shatters in your hand. It started with the flight. I had managed to get us first-class tickets with my saved miles. The only flight within budget was the 7:10 a.m. departure early but direct, and it included complimentary car service. I texted the itinerary to both of them. Brielle replied with a groan emoji and ugh, do we have to leave before sunrise? I'm not human until at least 10. I answered lightly. It was the only option that didn't cost an extra $300 each, plus breakfast on board. A few hours later, Mom called me. Couldn't you have found something later in the day? She asked. You know your sister doesn't do well in the mornings. I sat at my desk staring at the screen full of campaign briefs. I tried, Mom. The later flights were double the price. She sighed not unkindly. I just don't want this trip to start off with her cranky. I bit down on the urge to say, maybe she could try not being cranky. Instead, I said, I'll bring coffee. That was the first moment I felt the edges of my effort curling inward. But I pushed it aside. Then came the hotel. I had chosen a quiet resort in North Beach, less party, more peace. The lobby gleamed with sunlight and marble. The staff greeted us by name. It felt like a win. When we reached the suite, Brielle immediately said, So which room's mine? I had planned it out. Mom would get the master, of course. Brielle and I would take the 2 smaller rooms mine, the one with the partial ocean view. Mom gets the master, I said, and I'll take the one facing the city. Brielle blinked. But I wanted the ocean view. There was a pause, a soft silence that somehow put the weight on me. So I switched. It's fine, I said. Take it. Later that afternoon, I overheard her on the phone with someone, probably Amber. This place is okay, she said. Kind of tame, though. Erin planned everything, obviously. I didn't say anything. Dinner that night was at a waterfront seafood place I'd carefully vetted. I requested outdoor seating for the view. Halfway through appetizers, Brielle complained, It's too hot, and this ceviche is like too limey. Mom gave me a look, not harsh, just tired. Maybe we should have eaten inside. I nodded and flagged the waiter. We rushed through the meal, barely talking. Back at the hotel, I heard Brielle say as she passed me in the hallway, Next time I'm planning the trip. I smiled. It didn't reach my eyes, but I still told myself it's only the first day. It'll get better. It didn't. The next morning, I woke early. Not from excitement, just habit. I slipped out of the suite while they were still asleep and made my way down to the beach. The hotel offered a limited number of premium cabanas, first come first served, so I got there by 7:00 a.m. beach towel over my shoulder, iced coffee in hand. I chose one in the adults-only section with a misting fan and plenty of shade. I scheduled a fruit platter and coffee service to be delivered at 10:00. It was the kind of detail I liked to get right. By 9:30, I was back in the suite. Mom and Brielle were still in pajamas scrolling on their phones. Good morning, I said brightly. I got us a great cabana. Breakfast will be waiting there in half an hour. Mom looked up already frowning. I don't know if I want to sit at the beach all day. It's supposed to be hot. There's a misting fan, I said gently. And it's adults only, no kids running around, Brielle added. I kind of wanted to check out that mall we passed yesterday. I paused. I thought we could do the Art Deco walking tour after lunch. I already booked it. Mom and Brielle exchanged a glance. Let's just go with the flow, Mom said. It's a vacation, not a business trip. That stung more than I expected. We finally made it to the cabana 2 hours late. The fruit platter had wilted. The coffee was cold. No one mentioned it. That evening, Brielle casually said, "Oh, by the way, I told Amber to meet us for drinks tonight. She lives in Miami." I reminded them about our dinner reservation booked weeks ago, credit card secured cancellation fee included. Brielle shrugged. We can skip it. Amber knows better spots anyway. I looked at Mom. She looked away. That's when the first crack widened, not loud, not dramatic. Just the quiet realization that I was the only one still trying to make this trip what it was meant to be. It was the following afternoon when the alert hit my phone, a soft chime, almost apologetic. I glanced down. 340 Xars, Hotel Spa. I blinked. I hadn't booked any spa treatments. I was still holding the phone when I walked back into the suite. Mom and Brielle were getting ready for dinner. Brielle was curling her hair at the mirror, humming along to music on her phone. Did either of you go to the spa today? I asked as casually as I could manage. Brielle answered without turning around. Oh yeah, Amber and I got massages after lunch. Mine was deep tissue. Heaven. My voice stayed low. It charged to my card. She paused as if surprised I brought it up. Well, yeah, I figured since you've been handling everything else. You wouldn't mind. I stared at her. You didn't even ask. She rolled her eyes. Don't make it a big thing. You have a good job, Aaron. A massage is nothing. Mom came out of the bathroom catching the tail end. What's going on? Brielle charged nearly $350 to my card without asking. Mom frowned, but not in the way I needed. Brielle, you really should have asked first. Then she turned to me. I'm sure she'll pay you back. But we all knew she wouldn't. I didn't say anything more. I just nodded and walked out to the balcony. The sun was starting to set, casting the sky in soft coral. It should have been beautiful. I should have felt proud this trip, this view, this moment I'd built. Instead, I felt hollow. It wasn't just the money. It was how easily I'd been made invisible in my own generosity. How no one hesitated to spend what I had saved. How quickly my effort became an expectation. That night, we went to dinner like nothing had happened. Amber joined us. The conversation swirled around rooftop bars and influencer restaurants. I sat at the edge of it all, smiling politely, calculating the growing bill in my head, and wondering for the first time if maybe I didn't belong here anymore. I woke up early on Mom's birthday, even before the sun had broken over the water. The suite was still quiet. Brielle's door was closed. Mom's room was dark. I moved silently, almost reverently, gathering what I had prepared the night before. The card, the ribbon-wrapped envelope, the tiny bouquet I'd asked the concierge to hold in the kitchen fridge. With Louise's help, the same concierge who'd helped me with our check-in, I'd arranged a private birthday breakfast on the balcony, fresh fruit warm pastries, gourmet coffee, and chilled champagne for mimosas. The table was already set with white linens and polished silver. I placed the card beside Mom's plate, tucked the flowers into the center. Then I waited. At 9:00 they emerged. Brielle was still in sleep shorts, scrolling her phone. Mom looked surprised, but in a soft-touched way when she saw the setup. Happy birthday, I said. I thought we could start the day here, just us. Mom smiled, truly smiled. This is lovely, Aaron. Thank you. For a few minutes, it felt like something had cracked open just enough to let the light in. We clinked glasses. We laughed about Mom's dislike of orange pulp. I thought maybe finally this would be the day we found our rhythm. Then Brielle's phone chimed. Amber says there's a beach club party today. Her friend's the hostess, she can get us on the VIP list. I looked at Mom. I already booked us a cabana at Laya Beach Club. It's quieter. More your speed. Brielle scoffed. That one's boring. No DJs, no scene. Mom hesitated, then turned to me. Can we change it? Just this once, I didn't answer right away. Just folded my napkin and placed it beside my plate. Another deposit lost. Another plan erased. I smiled anyway. I'll see what I can do. And I meant it. Not because I didn't care anymore, but because I was starting to understand exactly where I stood. Amber was already waiting by the velvet rope when we arrived at Azure, the beach club she'd raved about. Her sunglasses were oversized, her laugh loud, her hug with Brielle dramatic. "Happy birthday, Mrs. Malloy," she said, air-kissing Mom like they'd known each other for years. A security guard checked a clipboard. Amber whispered something. We were waved in. Brielle shot me a look, half smug, half triumphant. I didn't return it. Inside, the place pulsed with bass and heat. Neon swimwear servers with trays of vodka shots a DJ spinning something that sounded like adrenaline. I glanced at Mom. Her smile was polite, strained. We were led to a cabana right next to the speakers. Prime location, apparently. The waiter explained the rules quickly. Minimum spend $300. Tab required. I handed over my card. Again. "Can we move to a quieter section?" I asked. "It's my mom's birthday, and she'd like to hear herself think." The waiter gave me a look, dry, vaguely condescending. "These are the premium spots. If you wanted quiet, maybe try a hotel pool." Amber laughed. "Oh, come on. It's fun. Your mom will love it." We settled in. Drinks arrived. Then more people, Amber's friends. Loud, gorgeous, not introduced. They made themselves at home in our space. Mom shrank into the corner, sipping water. Brielle seemed oblivious. I tried to breathe through it. Then one of Amber's friends, a woman in a gold bikini, reached into my beach bag, pulled out my sunscreen, sprayed herself, then tossed it aside like trash. I stood up. "Excuse me, that's my bag." She shrugged, unfazed. "Sharing is caring, right?" She reached again. I grabbed the bag, pulling it away, knocking over her drink by accident. The glass shattered on the concrete. She jumped up. What the hell? People turned. Amber, her friends, Brielle. "Mom." "She was going through my things," I said, without asking. Brielle hissed. "Why are you making a scene?" I stared at her, stunned. "A scene," I repeated. I looked around at the strangers, the tab, the empty chair beside my mother where I'd hoped to sit and watch the ocean, and I felt it, not anger, something quieter, heavier, like the last inch of rope slipping through your fingers when you've been holding on too long. I didn't trust myself to speak in front of all those eyes, so I turned and walked, past the lounge chairs, past the DJ booth vibrating with bass, toward the edge of the cabana where the noise faded just enough to think. Mom followed me. She caught up near a potted palm, her sandals crunching lightly on the stone. "Erin," she said, voice low. "What are you doing?" I turned to face her. She was going through my bag. None of them asked. None of them even looked at you. "This isn't what I planned." Mom folded her arms, her face tight. "I know you meant well, but this whole trip you've been rigid, controlling. Brielle feels like she can't relax around you." I blinked. Controlling. "I just want everyone to enjoy themselves. And I want to be respected," I said. For once. She didn't respond, so I added softer, "You're not even enjoying this place, are you?" Her eyes flicked away. Then she said it. Not loud, not angry, just tired. "You're ruining this for your sister. Just leave." That was it. No one came after me as I walked back through the crowd. Not Brielle, not Amber, not even my mother. The bouncer gave me a glance as I passed one that was oddly sympathetic, like he'd seen this before. Outside, the air was clearer, real. The city hummed in the distance. I hailed a cab, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't going back to make things right. Back at the suite, the room was still, the kind of stillness that feels both peaceful and hollow. I packed slowly. I folded each dress, each blouse, placing them back in my suitcase with the same care I used to plan this trip. I zipped the packing cubes, charged my phone, printed my boarding pass at the lobby kiosk. Then I opened the folder I had made for the week Mom's birthday Miami 3-day itinerary and rewrote the schedule. I crossed out canceled reservations, moved spa appointments, added backup options in case they got lost again. I printed that too, left it on the dining table beside a new envelope remaining trip funds transferred to Mom's bank account. Underneath, I left a note. "Everything is prepaid through Thursday. If you need help, ask Louise at the front desk. She knows your names." That was all. No guilt, no please call me, no apology. Just a quiet end to a story I wasn't allowed to finish. At the elevator, I hesitated. Not because I wanted to stay, but because I realized I didn't know who I was outside of this role, the fixer, the buffer, the one who made it all look effortless. What happens when you stop holding the pieces together? The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside. And for once, I didn't leave anything behind by mistake. I landed in Atlanta just after midnight. No missed calls, no voicemails. By morning, there was one text from Mom. Just 4 words. Let me know you're safe. I replied, I am. She didn't answer. The next 2 days stretched out like ribbon, quiet, loose, unfamiliar. I worked from home, caught up on emails, took long walks, made a full breakfast for no one but myself. And then Linda called. Linda's my cousin, technically Mom's niece, but in truth more like my sister growing up. She lived 3 hours from Miami and had offered to meet up for dinner during the trip. I'd told her not to bother, it was supposed to be a small family thing. Now she was calling to ask what the hell had happened. Apparently, Brielle had posted a video. A reel, loud music, champagne, flutes, a caption. When your sister ruins the trip so you make it better without her. But she hadn't disabled the comments, and people were asking questions. Linda had already seen enough to piece together the truth. Your mom looked miserable in that clip, she said. And you weren't even mentioned. Not once. Not even a thank you for the hotel. I said nothing. They're on their way back early, she added. Saw a picture of them at the airport this morning. Not smiling. I nodded more to myself than her. The silence after that call felt different. Not empty, but earned. That evening, I poured a glass of wine and sat on my porch. The sun dipped low, lighting the trees with gold. For the first time in years, my phone wasn't buzzing with someone else's needs. Just one notification. A Venmo transfer from Mom. $340 note spa. No words, no apology. But it landed heavier than any speech could have. It was raining when they came back. Not a thunderstorm, just a soft, steady curtain of gray that made the porch creak and the wind smell like pine. I heard the tires before I saw the car, the familiar crunch of gravel in the driveway. Then the knock. Not urgent, not timid. Just there. I opened the door. Mom stood with her suitcase beside her. No umbrella. Hair damp, eyes tired. Brielle trailed a few steps behind, arms folded across her chest like she didn't know what to do with them. No one spoke at first. Then Mom said we came back early. I nodded. I figured. She shifted her weight, looked past me into the house. Can we come in? I stepped aside. They walked in like guests, not like family. Mom noticed the clean kitchen counter, the folded laundry basket, the absence of chaos. I could almost see her calculating what hadn't fallen apart without her. We sat in the living room, me in the armchair, them on the couch, the same arrangement we used when Dad was still alive and arguments needed settling, only this time no one was yelling. Mom cleared her throat. Things didn't go so well after you left. I didn't respond. Brielle muttered. Amber kind of took over. It got weird. I still said nothing. Because the truth was, I didn't need to hear how things fell apart. They were never really together in the first place. The silence stretched. Not uncomfortable, just long enough to make them sit in it. Mom was the one to break it. I didn't realize how much you'd done. Until you were gone. She said it carefully, like placing china on a shelf she wasn't sure would hold. I always knew you were reliable, she continued. But I think I let that mean you didn't need anything. I looked at her then. She looked older than before the trip. Not from travel, something deeper. Like the weight had finally settled in. Brielle picked at a thread on her sleeve. Amber said some things after you left. Not nice ones. I raised an eyebrow, and you defended me. Her face flushed. I didn't say anything. I should have. I know. She didn't cry. I didn't expect her to. But there was a shift in her posture, like the armor she wore was made of paper and it finally got wet. I didn't mean to take advantage, she said. I'm used to you fixing things. That was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever gotten from her. Mom leaned forward. I didn't want you to leave. Not really. I didn't know how to stop it from spiraling. You didn't stop it, I said gently. You handed me the scissors. She flinched just slightly, but she nodded. I'm not asking you to fix this, Mom said. I just want you to know. I see it now. What you've carried. What it cost you. For a moment, I didn't know what to do with that, because for so long I had lived in the space between being needed and being seen. And now that she finally saw me, I wasn't sure I wanted to be needed anymore. I stood up. I'm going to make some tea, I said. You can stay the night if you want. Spare room's clean. They looked up at me. No pushback, no begging. Just quiet, the kind that sometimes means more than forgiveness. They stayed one night. Quiet, respectful. No one asked for anything. No one raised their voice. Brielle did the dishes without being told. Mom folded the blanket on the couch before she left. The next morning they drove off in the same silence they'd brought with them. I didn't watch them go. Instead, I watered the plants, answered a few work emails, took the longer walk to the mailbox, letting the morning sun touch my shoulders. There was no apology card, no grand gesture waiting, but a few days later, a package arrived. No note, just a small photo book printed and bound, pictures from past birthdays, old vacations, a few I had forgotten even existed. On the last page, someone Mom, I think, had handwritten one line. You were always there. I stared at it for a long time, not because it fixed anything, but because for once it didn't expect me to. I closed the book, placed it on the shelf, not too high, not hidden either. Just there. And that night I booked a solo trip for myself. Someplace quiet, someplace warm, no itineraries, no guests. I didn't tell anyone, didn't leave a folder, didn't leave a key.